Hi, Miss Bloom's class. I want to read a Nigerian folk tale to you. A folk tale is a story that is told by many people over time. So people pass the story down from their children to their children and their children. So your great-great-grandmother might have heard the story from your great-grandmother, then your great-grandmother tells your grandmother, and it passes down to family members over a period of time. And we call that a folk tale. I'm going to read one to you from Nigeria. It is called Why the Sun and the Moon Are in the Sky. How do you think the sun and the moon got into the sky? This folktale offers an explanation. Long, long ago, the sun and the moon lived on Earth and shared a home on top of a hill. From their home, they were able to observe the vast sea. Every morning and evening, the sun and the moon left their home to visit their good friend, the sea, and her family. The sea had a large family. The sea is also called the ocean. Among the sea's children were dolphins, whales, seals, and schools of many fish. All of these creatures called the sea mother, and she never went anywhere without her sea creatures. One morning, while the sea and the moon were visiting, they had the same idea. Dear friend, each morning and each evening we visit you, the sun said. Yes, added the moon. Now we would like to invite you to our home. Will you come visit us? How very thoughtful of you to invite me to your home, replied the sea. Of course I would like to visit you. However, I never go anywhere without all my children, and I fear that your house is just too small. The sun and the moon looked up at their small house. They thought about how big the sea was and how many children she had. We shall build a new house, said Sun. Yes, added the moon. We will build a larger house so that you and all your children can visit us. So the sun and the moon built a very large house. Their new house was so huge that it covered the entire top of a mountain. In fact, it was the most enormous house that the sun and the moon had ever seen. As soon as their house was completed, the sun and the moon went to the sea. Our new house is finished. We are certain that it is large enough for you and your children to visit us, said the sun. Please come and visit us tomorrow, said the moon. The next day, the sea and her entire family arrived at the sun and the moon's new house. The sea asked, May we come in? The sun and the moon replied, Yes, dear friends, do come in. So the sea flowed in with some of her children, including small fish, large fish, spotted fish, striped fish, and some very beautiful creatures with shells. Soon the floor was covered with nearly 2 feet of water, and the sun and the moon were standing on top of a table. As the sea kept flowing in with more and more creatures, she asked the sun and moon, Should we continue to keep coming in? And the sun and the moon replied, Yes, dear friend, please do come in. Think about what might happen next. As a good reader, try to predict what might happen on the last card. The sea kept pouring in with more and more of her children, sharks, stingrays, seals, and a giant whale. Now the sea and her family flowed above the tables, and the sun and the moon had to climb on top of their rooftop. The sea kept asking, Should we continue to come in? The sun and the moon did not wish to be rude, so they replied, Yes, dear friend, do come in. As the sea flowed in with more and more of her children, she filled the house to the ceiling. The sun and moon had nowhere else to climb. Their whole house was underwater. So they flew high, high, high up into the sky. And there the sun and moon have remained to this very day, watching over their good friend, the sea, and her very large family of many children. That is how the sun and the moon came to be in the sky.